Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to TV5 and Mana TV. You are watching Insight with Praveen Puram. Today, our esteemed guest is Mr. Srinivas Kaveti. He is an international attorney. So, we will discuss more about the immigration challenges. Hello, sir. How are you? Thank you so
Good
much.
and very good, very good. Thanks for having me, Praveen,
Yeah.
on your show.
So, as we have these episodes, today we will talk more about the immigration challenges today, what our Indo-American community and NRI communities is encountering. We will also ask more about what are the new laws, especially you all will be very much interested in the visas and the H1B laws. And before getting into the crux of the meeting, I would love to introduce about Srinivas Kaveti Garu. So Kaveti Law Firm is owned by Mr. Srinivas Kaveti. He has a Bachelor of Arts degree from English Literature, Psychology, Eastern Western Philosophy from Osmania University. He pursued his Latin legume from Symbiosis Law College, Pune. He bagged gold medal in law studies. He completed MBA and earned a master degree in communication and journalism. He also completed a qualified lawyer's practice course and was admitted to the High Court of England and Wales as a solicitor. Further to his UK education, he has completed a course equivalent to Juris Doctor in Brooklyn Law School, New York, USA. He's a notary public of the state of New York, and he's also, after a successful journey of education, he also has become a successful lawyer and assisted several clients across the globe. What a wonderful journey, sir. Srinivas Garu.
Thank you, Praveen. Thank
It's very amazing to see about your law journey, and especially being an international attorney. What is the added advantage to any of the customers you have? And tell us more about your journey in law.
See, most of the times when we come from India, as you said, non-resident Indians, NRIs, the NRIs means anybody who's out of India for more than 180 days, as per the Indian Income Tax Act. So anybody who lives overseas, of course, we carry our customs and we carry our belief system, our religion, and we also carry our expertise and skill. So when you live overseas, we, as you and I, we all came to America. We're living in America, so we also accumulate some. We work and accumulate, wealth, either buying a house or having children. But we also have some ties with back home in India. See? So when people have problems in terms of law, when people get married back home and they come to America, because in India we have Hindu law, we have Christian law, we have Muslim law, and in terms of property, there are different rules for Christians, Muslims, and Parsis. Now, present government is trying to uniform the laws, just like in America, not distinguish between Jews or Catholics or Protestants. They're on the way of doing that. But as on today, we still have different customary laws. Most of the times when we come, the first challenge we have is we want to get educated in the Western countries, whichever the country we go. And after education, the first thing we look at is getting a work permit. And, some countries they call it a work permit. Some countries they call it a H1B. In England, it's a post-work permit or tier one or tier two visa. Every country has its own immigration law. So, it's a different word nomenclature, but we all want to get a work permit first because we invest money and we want to do some work and get some skills so that we, recover whatever we pay to the school. So immigration law becomes a paramount for anybody. And once we get a work permit and we're working and people intend to marry, they want to marry here or they want to marry back home. So if they want to marry back home, again, customary laws, Hindu law, if you're a Hindu. If you're a Muslim, Muslim law applies. If you're a Christian, Christian law applies. If there is an interracial marriage between Christians and Muslims or Christians or Hindus, the Special Marriage Act applies. So that complexity is not there in America, you see. When you meet somebody here, you marry here, it's a local law. So because, by getting educated in different continents, I'm familiar with all these rules and regulations of four continents, of England, of Australia, of America, and India. India, we have almost all same law all over the country. let's say if it's a criminal law or family law, it's the same all over India. But in US, again, 50 states have 50 different laws. If you see UK, it's the same thing, just like in India. And Australia is also, again, they have provinces, they have different laws again. So by familiarizing and by getting to know the law of these land and different countries, when we all come out of the country, we always have properties back home and here. What happens if they've got married, one couple, and they're coming and living in America? They want to get divorced. Which law applies? Is it an American law applies or is it an Indian law applies because they got married in India? Does the Hindu law marriage applies? They have children, some children in India, some children in America. What law applies for their children? Custody. Somebody wants to adopt, what law applies, whether the Indian law applies or American law. So in that complex situation, and these days, if you see most of the IT companies, they're having operations back in India. So they have a private limited company over there under the Companies Act, and they have a C corporation or S corporation or LLC in America. So there are intercompany transfers from India to America, and American CEOs are going and settling in India, running the businesses in India. How the taxation works, and the money is being paid from here to India. The employees are there. When they make money here, how the money will be repatriated, how they pay taxes, whether they have to pay tax in America, the CEOs, whether they have to pay tax in India. That's again double taxation treaty. This all comes in private international law. So public international law is anything to do with United Nations and country to country, where we don't deal with that. Only during the time of war or some crisis between two countries, we deal public international law. Private international law is we're always dealing with that. So things like this. For example, if the husband and wife come to America, husband has troubled wife and she's a battered spouse, she goes back to India, files a complaint in Indian police, 498A, domestic violence, dowry harassment, how they have to be treated. And let's say if the husband is here and there's an arrest warrant in India, or there's an FIR, or wife has filed a maintenance in India. So these are all complex private international law issues. If somebody is familiar with the laws of both the countries, it is easy. So by the grace of Lord, because of my education in Australia, England, America, and India, it is, I understand what law applies because I've been practicing for more than 35 years. And the other thing is, I also completed, I have three honorary doctorates and one PhD in artificial intelligence and law. So, how the world is heading towards adopting artificial intelligence. Recently, the Supreme Court of India also started this. Many of the Indian courts are adopting artificial intelligence. They're computerizing. The first artificial intelligence lawyer is a Ross. She is manufactured in America. So how this is going to impact? I also do a lot of teaching in India in law schools. So I share my wisdom whenever I go back, and I teach at least in 20 universities as emeritus professor. So what is happening with my multinational law degrees disciplines? I'm able to help the clients easily because it's one window. They don't have to go to an American lawyer and go to an Indian lawyer. Most of the time, so the Indian lawyers don't understand the American law. And most of the American lawyers would not understand outside their state because we have 50 states in America. Every state has its own law. So there it becomes little handy for me because of my knowledge in international law, international trade law, and international private international law, with law degrees from so many countries and with a PhD. And I also write articles in a lot of journals of such issues. I'm an editor of Nyaya Patrika, and I'm also an editor in International Journal of Science and Law. So I also do a lot of writing of articles. And especially when I go back, people come to me, I address a lot of issues. Local lawyers also from India, they contact me. And many US lawyers, when they're representing the clients for divorces and property distribution, especially with husband and wife, they want to know what the Indian law is, whether the American courts can exercise jurisdiction on properties in India. whether the Indian courts can exercise jurisdiction on the spouse in America or children in America. These are all very, very complex issues, and these cannot be handled by some desi attorney or something who's practicing immigration law. So they're my expertise, and I'm able to help hundreds of clients back in India, hundreds of clients in America, hundreds of clients, and we also have clients in UK as well. Because of my UK education, we get a lot of calls from UK as well. People who are having problems with their visa. This is called tier one and tier two visa. People with extraordinary ability, how they can get stay there, and people those who want to set up a business in UK, and those who are going through a divorce, and those who are having problems with immigration. Because we have a partnership firm in East London in Newham, so I also visit UK. So we handle UK work as well. And lately, because my Delhi office, I brought one Australian lawyer from Australia, and he's heading my Delhi operations. So we also do immigration and law pertaining to Australia too, because I went to law school in Australia. So what
Excellent.
is happening is for a lot of Desis, and because I also speak Hindi, very conversant in Hindi because of our office and our presence in Delhi, Supreme Court also, we are able to handle High Court cases of Andhra, Telangana, and Supreme Court cases, and anything to do with cross-country jurisdictional issues. So we are having ready-made answers here because of legal education, because of practice of law, because of our offices in India. And we are opening more offices now to get into Tirupati, Vijayawada, and Khammam and Warangal. And as it is, we have offices in Karimnagar, Hyderabad, Vijayawada, and Delhi. So we are opening more offices. So we are going to people, and yearly 3 to 4 times I travel, and I also lecture in a lot of law schools, engineering schools. We help students in how to get a student visa. What are the do's and don'ts before they come to America? Even after coming to America, what are the rights they have? Like they should not drink and drive, and they should not get in trouble with women or smoking, and a lot of things. So we do a lot of seminars from my firm, and that's becoming handy for the kids who are coming to America and going to other parts of the world. And it's also helping a lot of families like their parents. So we do a lot of things, and with my 35 years of experience, and we cater a lot of clients from all over the world. So that's been my background, Mr. Praveen.
Absolutely. I think Dr. Srinivas, you have covered extreme on the word international law, right? It's very, very, I think, ocean of knowledge you definitely have from the immigration issues from multiple countries. And I think from the audience also they understand what you bring onto the table. But coming to the show, most of the audience would be interested first on the immigration's current H-1B visas. So now it's the season because March 31st is the end for new H-1B visas. Can you throw some light on what has changed from last year? Is there, because people are confused that whether the fees has increased, or if anyone from India wanted to apply, what is the fees, and are there any changes in the structure? Are there any changes in the processes, like the do we need a client letter? That if you throw some light so that they will be aware of what it is and they can apply to the right candidate, and they can apply their application to the right firms.
See, from the last year also, I did a lot of shows saying that companies should not file multiple applications. See, what has been happening from past couple of years, because the companies went and incorporated sister companies from the same premises, and they filed multiple applications from different companies. What has been happening is immigration has been sending notices to the employers and employees, and their visas are getting revoked. What is the meaning of revocation? Cancellation of their visas. And a lot of employers are being audited because when an employer is filing an application for the registration, there is an attestation online saying that whatever you're telling is truth. And it is very clearly said from last year, even now, that you're not making multiple applications. That's the key. But now, because a lot of employees are getting penalized, we constantly getting calls that people who are H1 has been approved for 6 months and 1 year, and now they're getting revocation letters from the immigration, and the companies are getting auditing letters. So this year, what immigration has done, they said instead of doing it on employer's name, they have made it, the software has been changed. They're more concentrating on the employee's details and beneficiaries' details. So the immigration said you can have a couple of applications, but it has to be a bona fide offer, not from the same company or your sister company. You can have an independent companies. It's like example, if a Google is offering, Microsoft can also offer you. If Google is offering, Apple can also offer you. So if you have two bona fide job offers, you can apply. But if it gets picked up, only one will be applicable. If you do more than that, and you'll be in trouble. So that'll be cancelled. And second thing they said repeatedly, if you have two passports, use only one passport. For example, some people in the world have two passports. I mean, of course, India doesn't have two passport situation, but other countries like Australian citizens or other country citizens, they double passport, they can have two passports. So the immigration is clearly saying if you have, don't use two passports for two different companies, only use one passport. The other thing is they have changed the protocol that if an employer is doing anything unlawful, they're clearly taking, they're asking the employer to undertake that they would report this to law enforcement agencies. What does it mean? They could give it to any police law enforcement agencies. If any fraud or any misrepresentation is perpetrated, they can get in trouble. That means the employer would end up in jail. In the past, if you see, Praveen Garu, that in America, a lot of times when the companies, if they have committed any fraud, if you see, even in California or Texas or anywhere, the big company owners have been arrested. Those companies' H1s have been cancelled. Heavy penalties been imposed on the employers, and many of them, these guys ended up in jail as well, and they've been deported also. So they're clearly saying, don't misrepresent us because immigration is a sovereign a government. You don't lie to a government. You don't commit a fraud or a misrepresentation because whenever you're filling up a form, you're doing an oath. What is the meaning of that? When you take an oath, you have to tell everything truth. But unfortunately, people don't understand. When you're making an oath, there is an oath act which says that if you lie on an oath, that amounts to perjury. And perjury is a moral turpitude offense. And for your visa cancellation, if you have committed a moral turpitude, even if you have a green card, your visa could be terminated because it's a moral turpitude offense. And lying to American government or any government, it's a felony. It's more than 1 year jail term. So these are serious offenses in America. So people think, oh, I'm just making a statement on oath. What does it matter? It does not matter in India, perjury, but it does matter in America. You will definitely go to jail. And if you're especially an employer, US employer, the Americans are giving you an opportunity and privilege to sponsor foreigners. That means you come under the definition of US employer and you're paying taxes. You're sponsoring people, you're bringing some people into this country. You want to bring good people. And after bringing them, you're sponsoring them for a green card. So you're a taxpayer. There is a lot of onus on the employer. That means you have very many privileges. So when you have privileges, don't breach them. And you have to follow the Constitution. You have to follow the tax laws. You have to follow the immigration laws. So the changes are only these couple of them. In terms of fees, they were saying that they would increase for registration 250, but it's coming from next year. They're only $10 now for registering. So they have not increased. And two, they've increased the H1B filing fees. Earlier it was only 1710. Now they've increased about $200-300 extra. And even for the premium processing, they've increased about $300. Other than those two, there is no extra fee on these two. The other than that is what I've been warning and giving my opinion to a lot of employees. Do some research about the employer. Find out whether they are bona fide. because there are websites you can find out from Department of Labor website whether the employer is qualified or disqualified. And there is an immigration website called ICE website, Immigration and Custom Enforcement, where there's some blacklisted IT companies names are there, and you can do research about the promoters. You can get a lot of information whether they are in trouble with the law. And there is another private company, third party, called Dun and Bradstreet. If you have a Dun and Bradstreet company number, if the company has that number, just like individual has our social security number, like EN number, Dun and Bradstreet also gives a number. If you have that number to the company, ask them. Find out how many years old these companies, how many employees they have, what sort of loans they have taken. Is the employer, is he the green card holder or a citizen, or is he a student, or is he an H-1B guy? These days, a lot of students and H-1B guys are also opening companies and trying to sponsor. That is unlawful. Find out about the promoter. What is the promoter does? What is his background? Check it out in LinkedIn. Then take up a job offer. And these are the ifs and buts, do's and don'ts. Employees from overseas are looking at getting an H-1B. In terms of employers, I'm sure from past 2 years, they've become alert that they cannot breach any law. And a couple of days ago, I received a call that from Texas, the IRS and immigration is raiding the guest houses of these employees, where they're having 10 people, 15 people. And I just received a call from a guy. These employers are also doing money laundering because they're giving two jobs to the employees, and one job they're giving cash. So one client has called me from another state, which I don't want to disclose. They have asked, the employer has asked him to go and bring some cash. So he went in the car. He's a student, to bring cash, 30 or $40,000. The police arrested him under the money laundering. So these things you have to be careful in America. So these are the do's and don'ts from the last year, but the new things are coming up, so one has to be careful.
Absolutely, that's a great insight. So I think the audience are very clear about the new laws on the H-1B filing. And similarly, you said Duns and Street, right? So
Dun
any
and Bradstreet,
employer,
DUN
any
and Dun Bradstreet. Yeah, it's an
so
international company. It's an American company. The American USCIS has given an authorization for them to do a third-party verification. And this company is stocks are traded in American Stock Exchange, and they have offices all over the world. Even in India, they have an office, even in Hyderabad.
is this a charge for the company to file so that
They do charge the employers to
Mhm.
be a member of that because they will audit you, they will take your tax returns, they will take the promoter's number, they will check it out, what are the how many employees you have, where is the location, everything they'll give it to you. Done in Broad Street. It's a third party. They might ask you some little fees to get the verification of a company, but buyers be aware when you want to accept any employment, when you want to get your H-1B file, go through some background verification check and file your applications.
Absolutely. That's a great insight, Dr. Srinivas. In this similar line, I wanted to ask one more question because let's say any person from India, you are applying for a company. So, one, you said you need to check on ICE and you need
ICE
to check
website.
on Dun and Bradstreet.
Broad Street, Dun& Bradstreet,
Okay.
ICE website, and
And
Department of Labor also has some disqualified companies.
excellent. So these three give me an idea, being out of the country, what kind of company is it? What is the background of this company? And that's a great insight because people are bullied because of this and they lose a lot of stress. They undergo a lot of stress and then things happen like that. So the next question is most of this year I think we all know that the stamping, if your visa is expired when you go out of the country, you need to go for the stamping, right? So many of our Indo-Americans are not NRIs who are going out, they are scared because of their visa status, right? So what do you suggest now? There is an eligibility criteria who can attend for stamping in the country. So can you throw some light because many of them have questions, they are eligible or not. So this gives a benefit for them if you can throw some light.
See, if you see in America, This was called visa revalidation.
Mhm.
I mean, 10, 15 years ago, we have done a lot of them from my firm. People who have been in the country, once they come on an H-1B, they didn't have to travel back to their home country for getting visa stamped. If they're maintaining the status, if they have the payroll, and if they have a client or if they're bona fide working. So same thing they have introduced again. After September 9/11, they stopped it. Why? Because they wanted to know the background of the employees who are here, whether they have committed any crime. Because this was called visa revalidation. They used to be posted to the Washington D.C. With the Department of State, and they used to get the visa stamp. You just used to send approval letter and the passport with your H1 earlier, and a letter from the employer. They used to stamp the visa and send the passport back to the employee. That was there before September incident. After September, they revamped. They said no, because there could be some criminals who would be applying for that, the H-1B. Now they brought it back again from this year. They said that if you have somebody as an H-1, if you want to get it restamped again in America, not going out of the country, they can get it done here from Washington, D.C. So that's called visa revalidation. You revalidate yourself instead of taking an appointment in the consulates, waiting months and months. Sometimes it is difficult for the consulate to get anti-fraud investigation. See, one must understand that the visa is stamped by the consular affairs. The consular affairs comes under the Department of State. Just like in India, we have Ministry of External Affairs. In America, it's called, Department of State. They control consulates. And if you see and understand, during the time of COVID and during the time of Trump time, many of consulates all over the world have been closed. They have not opened it again because of war, because of COVID, because they have downsized many consulates all over the world, and they have not opened it again. So what has happened? There's a lot of load on the consulates. For example, if you see India, people from Bangladesh are coming to get it stamped. People from Nepal are coming to Delhi to get it stamped because those embassies are closed. And so, like that, many countries they close the embassies. So there's a lot of load on the consulate. So what has been happening, because a lot of load is on the consulate and there's a backlash during the time of COVID, because many employers they either died or they were not going to the office. So there's a lot of backlash even in Africa and every country. So the Department of State, that's the reason they wanted to catch up. They have started this in America to revalidate yourself. That's one facility where this H-1B guys have. Then again, we have to see who will be eligible. There are certain conditions they have imposed, and you pay the fees and you can get it stamped here. Sometimes they won't because they want to verify the employment. Because when you go to a consulate overseas, the consulate cannot access the to USCIS because USCIS is another agency. Department of State Consular Affairs is a different agency, and USCIS is another agency. So consulate affairs will not have an access to verify the bona fides of the H-1B or any visa approved by the USCIS. So what they did, they have a center in Kentucky, case they where the consulates they send the information for doing an anti-fraud investigation, and that there is another agency which investigates and give the information to the consulates, whether this is bona fide, whether they have any criminal cases on the individual, whether the company is having good, whether they have an office, whether the president has committed any offenses, whether the client letter which they have disclosed, they will check up and go to the client whether it's bona fide, whether this all is true. After verification, they give a visa. So most of the times, people don't understand why these consulates they take months and months to get this anti-fraud investigation done. But once they find if there's any crime perpetrated, then they revoke the H-1Bs and they will not get visas. The other thing is the companies could also get in trouble. So one must understand it's a very complex procedures. And most of the times, the employees cannot do anything, and the employers have to do, employers' attorneys have to do. And there, a lot of clients get stuck and they do call us saying, what can we do, sir? We got this pink slip, we got this 221G. You know, all these things are very, very complex. In our 15, 20 minutes of interview, we will not be able to address all of that. But if any of your viewers have any trouble, they can contact our Indian offices. They can contact us on our offices. You know, our office is open Monday to Saturday, and we speak Hindi, we speak Telugu, we speak different languages. We can advise them. Each case is different. And because we do a lot of shows like this, and Mr. Praveen, this is not a legal advice. We're not attorney and client relationship. It's all for just information purposes. We will not be able to give proper advice to them. If they get in touch with us, we do a basic advice to them. In the event they want to hire our firm, they can hire us. Otherwise, we do get basic information and we evaluate and give them advices.
Excellent. So, who is eligible for this revalidation right now? How do I know?
Somebody who's already got an H1 and came into the country and their visa is expired, instead of going back because their job requires them to be in the country, they can get it revalidated after first H1 is done.
Oh, after first H1 is done.
Yeah.
Excellent. So now, before we move on to more on the immigration, I want to touch upon students because students are the number one victims. If you see most of the news today, they are in many different situations. Tell us more about your experience on the student issues, Dr. Srinivas.
A lot of times we're getting calls from students who are getting deported from different airports. I mean, last time when I was in India, I think the 15 or 20 students got deported. So TV, I think 9 and TV5 also did a Kadanam saying that why these guys are getting deported. So it was a Bharati, I was there. See, why these students are getting deported, the first thing is the students who are coming for the first time. They need to understand that they should prove that they have funds available. Most of the time, they believe on this visa agents, these education consulting companies. They're giving a bank statement where after coming to America, they will not be able to prove to the immigration and custom enforcement guys, border security force, that they have bona fide funds available. If they cannot show that they have bona fide funds available, they're getting deported, number one. Number two, people who are getting deported, students who are coming with faking education certificates. And sometimes people don't even know. I had a client, we had a client calling us, and the guy basically had a hotel management degree back in India. And when he came to the US, I mean, luckily he got a visa to come and do an MBA in America. So when he was asked at the port of entry, they asked what education you did. He's saying he did a BBA, but his education said that he's done bachelor's in hotel management. The officer asked him, "You're coming, you don't even know what your education was." The guy was stammering, no English, poor English. And the officer was asking, "How did you get an admission in this school?" Because you need to have at least 3.5 GPA to get admission in good universities in America. But the agent who has helped him did all the fake thing and they've not coached him or they have not trained him well. The guy came and got stuck. They were deported. People coming, sometimes they contact their friends in America saying, they send the WhatsApp messages, they put messages on Facebook and other social media. Hey, I'm coming to America. Can you get me a job? Because I'm coming as a student. So when they check up all these phones and their social media, and when they check up and speak to them, they're finding that they're not coming for education, but they're coming to do a job. So the F1 regulation says you can do a job in the campus, but not outside. So these things are red flags. And the other thing is, most of the times, the kids who are flying for the first time, we all know 18 hours flight, we get tired and we're all sleepy and we're all in fatigue and we don't understand American accent. When you see these police officers, these are basically police officers in uniform. So when you see them for the port of entry, the way they question, we all get confused because of the English accent, because we're not used to American accent. So we get scared and sometimes we don't answer. We get perplexed. We get stammering. and they take you for a second interview. When they take you for a second interview, of course, they're rigorously asking you questions because they want to make sure whether you're coming for education or you're just using the student visa to come and work in this country. So if you can satisfy all of that, sometimes, the family background. I had a client whose father is an auto driver. He's coming to America and he's showing 28, 30 lakhs in his bank account of his father. The officer asked, "What does your father do?" "Oh, my father runs, he's a taxi auto driver." Then he said, "How come your father has 28 lakhs in a bank account?" And that too deposited just few days before. The guy didn't have an answer. So things like that, when you're coming, I mean, it's not that an auto driver's son cannot come to America. Of course, he can come, but if he has a bank loan, and that sounds more legitimate. And things like this, many times these students they can answer and they get deported. And once they get deported, deportation is as I told you, it's a private international crime. It's an offense as against the country. Then what will happen in India? I mean, they will get arrested here, they're handcuffed and given it to the captain of the plane. And when the captain enters into India, he's been handed over to the Indian police. Under the Indian Penal Code, they get arrested and they have to come out of Indian immigration. And many times the Passport Act of India says if anybody gets deported from a foreign country, their passports get cancelled.
My
I mean,
God.
this is called impounding a passport. I mean, that serious repercussions are there when somebody get deported. And we get calls saying, "Oh, we got deported. Our visa agent said that I can go back again." The answer is you cannot go back because America has a contract called five-party contract with England, Australia, New Zealand, Europe, that they do share immigration information with other countries. So these agents, they say, "Oh, you can try to another country because you can go to Canada." All wrong advices because they're looking at their fees, all these agents sitting in India. So these are the red flags for students. And we do give orientation for pre-departure for students who are coming from any parts of the world to America. We do give them advices. Our officers in Hyderabad, officers in Delhi, we do, people call us, we advise them. So these are the issues for students. The other major issues where our firm is receiving calls from students are they're getting drunk and driving. It's an offense. You get arrested, and people driving a car without a license, people driving a car without an insurance. If you drive a car without a license and insurance in New York City, you get arrested. It's an offense. If you drink in driving, it's an offense, criminal offense. You get arrested. If you've taken drugs and drive, it's an offense. You get arrested. When you get arrested of these three things, and people are stealing, I'm seeing a lot of girls and boys, they go and steal in the shops. I get amazed. And these are all coming to do masters in computer science, spending $25,000, $30,000. They go and steal for $200, $300 in the store, and they get arrested. These are called moral turpitude offenses. Once you get arrested, the police is informing to the consulates, their visas are getting cancelled, revocation. They're informing the colleges, their service get terminated. I'm constantly going on different media and telling the students, don't do it. By doing a
Absolutely.
small mistake, you get arrested, it is on your arrest record. Your H1 will not be coming through. When you go out of the country, you cannot come in because the arrest will come at border security. They will not allow you to go into the country. And when you apply for a new job, you go for a criminal background history, it comes up. If you want to go to Canada, it comes up. It's there in FBI database for 20 years. Is it worth for student? The answer is no. Penny wise, pound foolish. And our firm has been handling such cases, and our firm is giving a lot of advices for students. These are the major issues for students. And a lot of parents, they watch my videos back in India, they call us, and the parents call, students call. And as it is, we are handling some cases, very cases which are already in America. These are people who are arrested in American jails. We are handling a lot of cases all over the country because our firm works with a lot of lawyers all over the country. So these are the issues with students. Instead of just talking about immigration law, how to get a visa and how to get a green card, I thought that talking about the student issues and educating them is paramount because they're coming with a big dream and parents are disappointed. They lose the money, they end up in jails.
Absolutely. I think
Those are the student things we're working on.
that's a great insight, Dr. Srinivas. Only, I think, in the interest of time, I'll ask two questions and then open up your message to the community, and then we'll wind up. So, one question. The first question is deporting a student, right? So, even when sometimes they deport and they might not be arrested. So, are you saying that once you are deported, you cannot come to any of the countries?
Yes, in the passport, they will cancel your visa. They'll give you a piece of paper saying that we have canceled your visa, revocation of your visa. There are two types of revocation. One is called revocation, means cancellation with prejudice, and second is called cancellation without prejudice. If sometimes for some errors have happened, sometimes the border security force they do cancel without prejudice. Then they'll say you go back and apply again. So that's called without prejudice. And if they write with prejudice, you can never come back. It's a 5 year ban or a 10 years ban. And most of the students they call us, oh, the immigration officer said I can go and apply. The immigration officer who's canceling your visa, he's not entitled to give you legal advice. He's a police officer. He wants to send you home. So he's not giving you legal advice. Even if he gives a legal advice saying that you can go and apply with a consulate, that is a wrong advice.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And the second question is on the OPTs and CPTs, right? So you said that the students are eligible only to work in the universities. Is it on CPT or OPT or both of them?
Well, one must understand CPT is given, curriculum practical training is given while you're in the college. If you're doing a master's or a bachelor's, the school says that you can take one course, like three GPS or two GPS, that if you go and work, whatever you're learning in the school, you're experiencing the same thing outside the world. So they give you permission for one course. That means the schools have to have an agreement with the employer. So you end up working as an intern, either a paid intern or an unpaid intern with an employer. So there is an agreement between the employer and the school. That is called CPT. But you cannot take a CPT letter and go and work in a grocery store or a candy store. No. And in OPT also, you are working towards the occupation which you studied. It's called optional training. It's also called occupational training, where you're, let's say, if you're doing a master's in computer science, you're working in IT industry. So there's a training plan. There is a IT company which is either into staffing or recruiting or even they're developing a project. So you're basically writing a training plan and saying, hey, the student after master's is going to work for us. So that is, as a student, they get a work authorization. The immigration do gives a authorization to work, and they can go and work outside in the industry after master's program. They get, they also get STEM program 3 years, and after master's 1 year. So that's called OPT. Many times we get calls saying that, oh, I got my OPT, can I start my own business? Because the immigration has only given you to work. Because if you see your social security number, there is an annotation on the social security number for student and for the H-1B guys saying valid for work and upon USCIS authorization. There is an annotation written on the social security number. But for a green card holder and a citizen, you don't get that annotation. If you go back and see, if a citizen is getting a social security number or a green card holder is getting a social security number, that annotation is not there. But social security provided for student and for the H-1B guys, there is an annotation. What does it mean? Use this social security number only upon the USCIS authorization. But what these students and H-1B guys, they misuse that social security number. So one has to understand that there are certain laws to be followed. There are certain income tax laws, immigration laws, and other patriotic laws to be followed.
Okay, that's a great insight, Dr. Srinivas. So, are you saying H1B holders are not eligible to open an LLC as well?
Well, recently they made changes by the immigration. They said they can open up a company too, LLC, but they cannot be majority shareholder. They should not run the company. There should be somebody else but they could have a minority shareholding, and they can also file an H1 from that company. But in the H1B petition, they have to disclose that these individuals, beneficiaries, has a interest in the company, where which company is sponsoring them.
Oh, okay, that's a nice insight. I think, in the interest of time, that's a great insight. We have covered H1Bs, the current issues, and the students' issues. So probably we will have more sessions, Dr. Srinivas, to go more. There are so many immigration problems, like as you said, diverse problems, accidental. What will happen to the spouses if they are international? If they don't have if they are on a visa, what will happen? So there are so many information we can pass on. We will do in multiple episodes, if you are okay, and then we can give this kind of information to the public. That would be a great help. So finally, what is your message to the community today on the immigration, exclusively on H1B and students?
Well, the difference in life, you can't say that I don't know the law. That is not an difference in anywhere in the world. One, when you come into these countries, when you want to come into America, different country, one has to know the law of the land. If you say that I don't know, is not a defense. So get to know the law of the land, whether you are an employer or employee, whether you're a student or if you're visiting also, get to know the law of the land. That is the first, my opinion for viewers. And don't take this as a legal advice. If you have any specific issues, get in touch with the local lawyers. Family lawyers are different, immigration lawyers are different, criminal defense attorneys are different, and 50 countries have 50 different laws. Get in touch with some competent, licensed attorneys and get the legal advice. Protect your interests when you're in a foreign land. And that would be my advice. And as you said rightly in other episodes, we could cover on, battered spouse, where a lot of husband and wives, they come to America on an H1B, or students, and the husbands abusing the wives, or sometimes even wives abusing the husbands. We can handle the rights of husbands and wives, divorce rights, child support, alimony, maintenance, and will they be able to get a green card if there's an abused spouse? Our firm also handles such cases under VAWA. And in another episode, we can also handle if the students or any H1B guys or green card holders get hurt in an accident. What are the accident laws in the country? General overview information. And Praveenji, thanks for having me. I think we have covered a lot of it, and I'm looking forward to do more shows. And I'm happy to share my wisdom. And This is not an attorney-client relationship, and we are only doing this only for information and education purposes purely, not to even solicit about my firm.
Thank you so much, and
Thank you, Privilege.
Dr. Srinivas, for your time. And thank you, all the viewers. So, this is the information for today from the Kaveti law firm. Dr. Srinivas has been giving his wisdom. So, if you have any questions on the immigration issues, you can always reach out to his firm, or you can message me. I can connect him. And thank you to the sponsors like Ready CPA. And this is the tax season. If you have any questions, you can go to Ready CPA or text me so that I can connect you there. And also thanks for Spearsoft for their sponsorship. And also if you have any IT needs, you can connect directly to Spearsoft. Thank you again.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
sir. Thank you,
Have a
Privilege.
wonderful day.
Thank you. Bye.